Zeeland Farm Services is home to Michigan's largest soybean processing plant. Operating 24 hours per day and 360 days per year, the plant processes over 30,000 bushels of soybeans per day. The entire facility is powered by 2 engines running on renewable landfill gas, which produce enough energy to add to the electricity grid, powering many of the businesses and homes in Zeeland. The following plant tour will give you an overview of the major steps that go into producing soybean meal and soybean oil. First, soybeans are delivered to ZFS from our valued Michigan farmers. Trucks arrive on our campus where they weigh in, typically carrying between 1,000 and 1,900 bushels of soybeans per load. Inside the scale house, soybean samples are run through various tests to determine moisture and bean type. The soybean types include non-genetically modified or non-GMO beans, GMO beans, and identity preserved or IP beans. Our specialty soybeans are closely monitored from beginning to end to ensure the identity and quality is preserved, making them more valuable for soybean growers and end users. Upon entering the processing plant on the first floor, you come into a large room filled with control panels and computers used to operate the entire processing plant. However, it is on the 5th floor where the process begins. Soybeans are funneled into the processing plant from a staging bin on the roof. The beans arrive in a conditioner, which warms them in preparation for dehulling. This conditioner processes an astonishing 1,700 pounds every 90 seconds. During dehulling, whole soybeans are conditioned, dried, and cracked to loosen the hull from the meat. Next, the beans are sent to the hallucinator where they are split in half. The hull is rolled off of the soybean meat, which is then fractured into the appropriate size for flaking. The hulls are sent directly to be ground and then to storage, while the beans proceed to the 3 flaking machines, consisting of 2 horizontal rotating smooth steel rolls. Soybean particles are fed between the rolls and flattened as the rolls rotate against each other, determining the average thickness of the flakes. The main purpose of flaking is to increase the surface area to improve the efficiency of the oil extraction process. The thin flakes move via a conveyor belt to the extraction plant. During the extraction process, soybean oil is washed out of the flakes with a solvent. The oil is separated and goes into the distillation process, where solvent is reclaimed for reuse. The crude soybean oil is then sent to the refinery plant for further processing, while the flakes proceed to the DTDC, which stands for the desolventizer, toaster, dryer, and cooler. This is where the flakes will be prepared to become meal. Once at the DTDC, steam trays heat the flakes to evaporate the final solvent from the meal. Next, the meal is toasted to eliminate the bitter-tasting enzymes in the beans. The desolventized and toasted flakes drop into drying decks, where they are dried to proper moisture levels. The meal is then cooled and moved to sizing. During sizing, which takes place back in the processing plant, the meal is ground with a roller mill and run across sizing screeners, ensuring the flakes are properly sized for meal. The final meal is put into overhead or flat storage until ready to be loaded out. ZFS has over 1,200 tons of overhead storage capacity and 6,000 tons of flat storage capacity. While the flakes are going through the DTDC process, the crude oil arrives at the refinery plant from the extraction plant, where the soybean oil is refined. The top floor of the refinery houses the computers, which monitors and controls the various machines. An on-site chemistry lab is also on this floor, which is fully equipped to perform various quality tests for taste and purity on the soybean oil. During each step in the refinery process, ZFS operators test the oil to ensure it's properly refined to precise specifications. The first step in the refinery plant is the centrifuge, the most vital piece of equipment in soybean oil production. The main function of the centrifuge is to separate the oil from the phosphatides and soaps, or solids. This is accomplished by spinning the oil at very high speeds. Next, silica is added to the oil to remove the remaining soaps and phosphatides. This step also removes some of the heavy metals and other impurities that remain in the oil. The silica is then removed using a filter. Next, the oil passes through a set of filter beds packed with bleaching clay, which removes color pigments, chlorophyll, trace metals, peroxides, and secondary oxidation products. It then goes into the deodorizer, which removes byproducts using a very high vacuum, high temperatures, and sparge steam. This final step removes free fatty acids, odor, color pigment, and degradation byproducts. The soybean oil is then sent to the tank farm for storage, which is later loaded onto trucks. Some of this soybean oil is sold under the brand name Zoy. The soybean meal and hulls from Zeeland Farm Services are transported all around the world for consumer consumption as well as livestock feed.